Hello, Nova Nation. Welcome back to Cats on the Court. I'm David Szczepanski.
I'm Madison Hodges.
And I'm Nathan Mathur.
Guys, one of our last episodes of the year, what a year it's been in our first ever year of Cats on the Court. Yesterday, at least on the day that we're filming this, earlier on this week, was Kevin Willard's second press conference. His first one was on Zoom. This one, of course, the more traditional press conference in person, getting his jersey, getting introduced by Father Peter and the Vice President and Director of Athletics here at Villanova, Eric Rodel. Want to get your initial reactions to his press conference, to really kind of the key points that Willard said. What were your key takeaways?
Yeah, he definitely had talked about his experience already coaching in the Big East. He had previously coached at Seton Hall, so he had talked about that experience that he had there. He said that he was ready to coach here at Villanova. He already loves the energy that Villanova already has with the fan base and the team, and he's ready to implement that Jay Wright type of vibe that he had talked about. Even at the press conference, he had said, this is Jay Wright's program, and I'm going to continue that on.
There was nothing I found really revolutionary about what Willard said, I'll be completely honest, but he said the right things, and considering how the fallout of Maryland went down, Kevin Willard saying the right things is something that is going to be very important moving forward, because I think he messed that up a bit in mid to late March. But again, just talking about the good culture they have, talking about Jay Wright's blessing, and I think just starting on a fresh page with a lot of positive vibes.
I thought, too, the biggest takeaway was that he said this was going to be his last job. And, you know, he's a guy that I believe just turned 50. He said just celebrated his 50th birthday. So we'll see how long he's here. Hopefully he brings a lot of success. But I thought that was something big that came out of the press conference. But also, too, and you guys both hit on it, was that he didn't want to change Villanova's culture and admitted that it was Jay's program, said it a lot, and how Jay and Kevin Willard have a very close relationship. But, you know, did say, you know, the playing style needs to change. And obviously the team needs to do better. And, you know, his whole staff coming in. And the only, I do want to talk about that as well, the only coach that is returning from Kyle Neptune's staff is Ashley Howard. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously, Coach Nardi, Coach Anderson, I mean, big pieces, Coach Young, big pieces of the coaching staff this past year, but especially with Nardi and Anderson. I mean, they go way back here at Villanova, having played here.
Yeah, definitely. Nardi, I can't lie, was kind of a surprise. I genuinely thought he was going to stay. I thought he did great coaching at the Crown tournament, and he definitely kept up to the expectations that Villanova was looking for. But yeah, that was a surprise to me personally.
Yeah, I agree. Nardi was a bit strange, but I think it's time to move outside of just the Jay Wright tree. I know he's going to be the best coach we're ever going to have. No matter how well Willard does, he's going to be the most beloved. But it's time for a fresh start to turn the page. Retaining Howard is good, so we have a bit of that old program. But if we keep putting the same people who were not able to be successful and get into the tournament in these spots, in these major spots, we're not going to improve. And with a whole new staff, I think it's just nice to start anew.
I think what Howard does, and Willard touched on this as well, is, I mean, he has a really good recruiting chain in the city of Philadelphia, and that's huge because he talked about how big Philadelphia basketball was and how passionate Philadelphia sports fans are. And Madison, you touched on a little bit about Coach Nardi in Vegas, so it's time to talk about Villanova's Crown Tournament run in Vegas. 2-1 under Coach Nardi, of course. 2 wins against Colorado, win against USC, a very close win. And then the game, which was probably the most entertaining game of the year, at least one of against UCF. Yes, it was a shootout that didn't go Villanova's way, but kind of thoughts on how the Wildcats played in the Crown Tournament.
Yeah, people didn't expect Villanova to go far in the Crown, and to make it to the semifinals was great for the program, especially with, you know, the firing of Kyle Neptune and Nardi stepping in. Definitely was a shock for some people. I thought Villanova did great up until the UCF game. Obviously, that game went into overtime, and then Villanova ended up losing. But I think they did a good job, especially for that coach change in the middle. So, yeah.
The main event of the Crown Tournament to me was Eric Dixon breaking the all-time scoring record, and him being able to do that was something that should be cause for celebration for years to come for Villanova fans. But again, even in the UCF game, I think it was just a tale of how the entire season went for this program. You know, late game, I think we had a 92% chance to win according to ESPN, and we messed it up. And that's why, again, mentioning back to the coaching changes, why do we not keep Nardi? Why do we not keep these people? It's because when it comes down to crunch time, those last 2 minutes, can we operate effectively? And Willard is a guy who literally proved a couple weeks ago that he can do that against Colorado State. Drew up a play for Derek Queen in one of the only buzzer beaters in the tournament and got them through. So hopefully he can replicate that success next year.
Yeah, Villanova had a 4-point lead with 19 seconds left to go, and eventually Jameer Brickus' missed free throw kind of opened the door for UCF to come back. But I was surprised that it took us a few minutes to get into Eric Dixon. I mean, truly becoming Villanova's all-time leading scorer, passing Kerry Kittles, which was such a tremendous feat in Vegas, and so happy for Eric and really the Villanova program. But also, guys, wanted to just quickly mention, Wooga Poplar. I mean, how good was he? Had a career-high 32 points against UCF in his last 5 games. He averaged more than 20 points. And really, guys, I mean, there were times where Eric Dixon, even though he became Villanova's all-time leading scorer, was a little inconsistent. But Poplar, I mean, this is going back to the Big East tournament, was doing everything he can to get Villanova across the finish line to victory and carry them as far as he could. But also, too, I think Poplar's performance in the Crown Tournament certified him that he is an NBA-level talent.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like Wooga has been like this quiet storm is what I like to call him. He definitely comes up and shoots out at some games, but it's always the focus has been on Eric Dixon with him becoming the all-time leading scorer and then him being, the leading scorer for a lot of the games. I feel like Wooga definitely doesn't get as much credit as I believe he should be getting, but he definitely had stepped up in that Crown game for sure. And I think because of his efforts, that's why we had beat USC and the University of Colorado and almost had beat UCF.
Last year when he came in from the transfer portal, I was ecstatic. I remember the Final Four team that he had at Miami. And going here now, like all season, I know it wasn't always the most consistent from him, but he did play well in the time that it mattered. It's just that we could not put together a holistic effort. I would love to have him back next year. Obviously, we can't, but I mean, I hope he makes the NBA. I know Eric is projected in mock drafts to, I think, go around late second round. So hopefully both of those guys we can see playing professionally next year.
Unfortunately, Poplar and Dixon won't be back on the main line next year, but there's also 3 other players, at least as of right now when we're recording this, that won't be wearing a Villanova uniform next year. Chris Parker, Josiah Mosley, and Nana Njoku are the 3 players that have entered the transfer portal up to this moment. I want to get your thoughts on those 3 players leaving the Villanova program, because I think we can all kind of agree that they had potential, unfortunately just didn't kind of live up to it here at Villanova, and I think also playing time had a big factor in that.
Yeah, definitely. These 3 players didn't play a whole lot throughout the season. Some even didn't play at all. Chris had redshirted this season, and I think that might have been the reason as to why he decided to put himself into the transfer portal. Maybe just Villanova wasn't the fit for him after seeing, how the program was run this year. But I wish them all 3 the best on wherever they go.
Yeah, none of the 3 were shocking. Nana had a practice scuffle, rumored at least, that seemed to be a bit of a rift there between the team. And Josiah, you're talking about a Gatorade player of the year out of Texas, just didn't get enough minutes this year. And there are times offensively where he just completely faltered. Great defensive rebounding presence, but never really got it going in the paint. Missed a lot of layups this year. And Chris Parker, again, just a spotty wing shooter. I don't think he's going to come back either. But again, interested to see where all 3 of those guys go. And more interestingly is who we can bring in, because there's still, I think, 7 or 8 roster spots left.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Nathan. But I really think for Villanova, their biggest loss is just losing Josiah Mosley. I mean, what he brought to the team defensively, especially in non-conference play, his ability to rebound, and just a really physical player. And I think, having that ability as just a freshman in the Big East, I thought that he was really kind of made for the Big East. Just the way that, he plays basketball, like I said, that defensive-minded. And, when you think about Kevin Willard and all the stuff that he said in his past few press conferences, really, he wants his players to be, defensive first, defensive-minded, and always play with that tenacity. And I thought that, Josiah Mosley really did that this season. And unfortunately, his minutes were cut at the end of the season. Jordan Dumont played better and started to knock down some shots, which kind of eliminated Mosley a little bit just because that Josiah did struggle shooting the ball this season for the most part. But also, too, guys, I just want to talk about Tyler Perkins. I mean, for Villanova, they have to do everything they can to keep Tyler Perkins here on the main line. And it seems like as of right now, he's going to stay, hasn't entered the transfer portal. So hopefully that will stay the same over the next few days. But speaking of transfer portal, we'll have some transfer portal updates and possible Villanova candidates coming up here with Nick here on Cats on the Court.
Hello and welcome. I'm Nathan Mathur here alongside with Nick Calandrino, and we are going to be telling you everything you need to know about the transfer portal.
Yeah, so there's 4 main guys with visits actually scheduled already. Trey Holloman from Michigan State, you have Zerno from Bosnia, you have Duke Brennan from Grand Canyon, and you have Rodney Rice from Maryland. So if you want to go one by one and start with Holloman, obviously the Michigan State point guard, who I think could be very, very good for this program, kind of be the Brickus replacement.
Yeah, we need guard play. That's something that I think we lacked this year. I mean, only having Brickus as I think our true point guard. Longino was the second. If we're going to need Holloman and probably 2 more, but then moving on.
Yeah. So Zerno from Bosnia. This is a very interesting player that just decommitted from Indiana a couple weeks ago. He is 20 years old, I think, but he still has 4 years of eligibility. His stats are unbelievable. He averaged 17 points, his splits. He shot over 45% from the field, over 45% from 3, which is kind of ridiculous. I think he can be really, really good for the program and kind of be that lights-out shooter that would be very well on this team.
I'm going to move to Duke Brennan now from GCU, a 6'10 big man, averaged, I think, 10.9 points per game and 9.7 rebounds. So nearly a double-double. Another interesting note, considering we are a Catholic school, he was holding a Bible before most games, which does bode well for us in the transfer portal. We're going to need a replacement for Enoch Malachi, 6'11 guy. We need size. Obviously, you see the two teams that played the national title, Florida and Houston, had big men top to bottom on the lineup. So we're really going to need to build some rebounding prowess.
Yeah, one thing about him, he is 6'10", I think 255, but he plays bigger than his height. He played well when it mattered the most. Obviously, he's been to the tournament 3 times, conference champion twice. I think he actually was 17th in offensive rebounding in the country and top 25 in rebounding in general. He averaged a double-double in conference play, and he really started to excel. One thing that I think is interesting is obviously Grand Canyon played Maryland in March, where he only had 2 points and 8 rebounds. Not the best game, but obviously Willard saw him firsthand very recently, so I think he would be a really good fit.
Then want to close?
Yeah, so lastly, Rodney Rice, I think. So he'll be on campus tomorrow from Maryland, obviously that Willard connection. He's down to 6 schools, Nova being one of them, and I really think it's going to be us versus Tennessee. Obviously, he could go play well with his teammate Gillespie, but he's a guy who averaged about 14 points, really would be that number 1, number 2 option on a team that I think, Willard's trying to develop and bring into some of his guys.
Yeah, we'd love to have Rice here and all the 4 guys and hopefully more because there's many spots to fill. Once again, I'm Nathan Mathur with Nick Calandrino telling you everything you need to know about this year's transfer portal.
I mean, obviously a lot to talk about, and we'll continue to find out more as the season goes on. But a lot of updates, and this will do it for this episode of Men's Basketball Cats on the Court. I'm David Szczepanski.
I'm Madison Hodges.
And I'm Nathan Mathur.